Uncle Todd and Sonny here. And for our second week of Christmas flicks, I decided we needed to do something we haven't done before, a Giallo. Now, a Giallo is an Italian style thriller. Most can attribute its popularity and its origins with Mario Bava and his film The Girl Who Knew Too Much. Of course, the actual set pieces and the tropes and everything that became the standard for the Giallo was again Mario Bava with his seminal film Blood and Black Lace. And Giallo was very popular from the 60s through the 70s into the 80s. It had taken a dip in popularity at the end of the 60s, but Dario Argento started his trilogy of animal-based Giallo titles with his first film, The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, a unofficial adaptation of the Frederick Brown novel The Screaming Mimi. He followed that up with Four Flies in Grey Velvet and The Cat O' Nine Tails. And then he made tonight's flick, Deep Red, considered by many to be the best Giallo in the entire genre, and not Mario's best, not Dario's best film. That is his follow-up to this, Suspiria, which, although has Giallo elements, is more of a supernatural tale. He followed that up with The Inferno, which was the second of his Mother of Tears trilogy. He didn't complete that until the 2000s. After the disappointment box office of Inferno, he went back to the Giallo with Tenebrae, released over here as Unsane, and then Phenomena, which was released over here as Creepers, although that had a few supernatural elements to it as well. Giallos were very influential for the slasher films of the 80s, late 70s and early 80s. This has a couple of bits that you can see were an influence on American films. Bava's Twitch of the Death Nerve, which had other titles like Carnage and Bay of Blood, gave us probably one of the most recognizable shots in a film that was later copied in Friday the 13th Part 2. That would be the shot of two people in bed together, frolicking, let's say, and a person with a spear, from the point of view of the killer, comes up and wham. This film has a couple of things in it that I think inspired some of the filmmakers, especially the Saw franchise, and not sure about the other one. I'll have to come back to that when I think of it, if I remember. The thing about Giallos is the tropes are usually that there's a bunch of killings and a mysterious character wearing black gloves. Black gloves very important, and the murders all stem from usually something in the killer's past. They're always mysteries, so you have to work along with whoever the hero is in discovering who the killer is. If you've never seen a Giallo but If you've seen some of Brian De Palma's films, like especially Dressed to Kill, although it is a pastiche of Hitchcock's Psycho, most of De Palma's thrillers are. He's not doing gangster films. It is also a very Giallo-looking film. Anyway, this starts out with a murder in front of a Christmas tree while a child's lullaby plays. You would have seen that during the opening bit. We then move to a meeting of a parapsychologist chaired by psychiatrist Giancarlo, who has invited a real psychic, Helga Utman, and while she is talking, she has a sudden vision.
You have killed, and you will kill again. There's a child singing.
Wonder if that has anything to do with the shot at the beginning of the movie. I bet it has. Well, after excusing herself from her outbreak, the meeting kinda lets up, and the killer, because there's always a killer, prepares to have to deal with this unexpected happenstance, and we get a most important shot that happens in every Giallo. That's right, the signature Giallo black gloves. Interesting side note, Argento's own hands were always used for the glove shots. What am I saying with that? Anyway, Helga returns home, and unfortunately, the killer goes there too. Whoa! Man, this killer ain't messing around. A meat cleaver. Well, we cut from that rather graphic brutality. I keep saying Bava. Argento had, when working on this, decided to think of all kinds of deaths that were really painful for ordinary people to imagine being happen. And so it's a little cruel. Anyway, we then cut to our hero, a Englishman named Marcus, who is in Rome teaching music at a conservatory. He's a professional pianist. And he runs into his friend Carlo.
My. We are expanding our philosophies this evening, aren't we?
Yeah, I just thought of it. Sometimes when I'm drunk, I expand into genius.
What was that?
Yes, that is David Hemmings, probably best known for the film Blow Up, which De Palma remade as Blow Out, in which he played a photographer who may or may not have captured a murder while taking pictures in a park. Some of his other film work includes he had a part in Barbarella, as well as in Murder by Decree, which was a Sherlock Holmes versus Jack the Ripper film. He played the police inspector in that. And most interesting, on the PBS show Mystery, he played the title character in their version of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which had three different characterizations in it. You had Dr. Jekyll, who was older, and you had Mr. Hyde, who was young and handsome, and then you had the metamorphosis stage, where he would sometimes revert to, which was more of an ape-like creature, kind of combining Hammer's Two Faces of Dr. Jekyll with the Frederick March version of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. It was pretty standard for a lot of Italian films to hire actors who were either American or British to help with foreign sales. And because a little known fact here, people in Italy really liked American and British films. And so a lot of times filmmakers would bring in an American actor, or they would change the names of everyone to sound more Anglican to kind of fool the audience into thinking it was a British or American film. Yes, what was that? That sounded like a scream of someone being murdered. Interesting. Oh well, they separate, and Marcus goes to his apartment building where he becomes a witness to what was happening with the scream they heard. Well, what do you do in a situation like that? He immediately runs up to her apartment, which just happens to be under his, and he rushes down through this hallway of pictures and paintings, and then he gets to her, but it's too late. So he calls the police, who question him, and then we meet our next important character. How do you pronounce her name? Gianna, a reporter.
Good evening. Hi, everybody.
Jana Bretzi.
Yes, Captain.
Okay, who told you about this?
I have my own sources.
That is, of course, Dario Nicolodi, a screenwriter and actress who worked a lot with Dario Argento. In fact, they were a couple, although never officially married. They lived together, and of course were the parents of Asia Argento, who would also work with her father on some films, which is very odd because Aja would have nude scenes in her father's films, and although he would, it's just weird that you have filming your daughter in the nude, even though she's of age. Let's just skip that. Anyway, she worked with Dario on several films. She was also in Suspiria, Inferno, Tenebrae, Phenomena, Opera, and of course the last of the Mother trilogy, Mother of Tears. She also made appearances in films by both Mario Bava and his son Lamberto Bava. Everybody knew everybody there. The only reason she stopped appearing in Argento films is the relationship kind of fell apart at one point. Anyways, Gianna takes a picture of Marcus, and later they attend a funeral where she tells him about all the people that are there, but he's more upset about something that she did.
Yes, by the way, I wanted to thank you. It's always nice to let the murderer know.
Seems he had seen someone in a raincoat running away from the apartment building right after the murder, so he's now a witness. He and Gianna go and talk to Giancarlo, and he tells him of her last words. And then we have a really humorous moment, where they argue over manliness and femininity and everything, and to prove he's full of it, she challenges him to an arm wrestling match. They call it Indian wrestling in the film, and she beats him twice.
But that was a total cheat. You caught me completely off guard.
Anyways, he really starting not to like her, and he leaves, and he goes to look for Carlo because he wants to ask him a question, and we meet Carlo's humorous mother.
I mean, I was an actor. Now it's all gone. There's just those photos. But that's water under the bridge. I console myself by playing the piano. You play the piano. Yeah.
Well, I'm a pianist.
Oh, my, what a magnificent combination. An engineer-pianist.
Yeah, for some reason, she's convinced he's an engineer. I don't know why. Because he tells her he's a pianist like 4 times. Anyway, she gives him Giancarlo's address of where of his girlfriend, I don't know, whatever. And so Marcus goes over there, but he gets a bit of a surprise.
Sorry. I'm looking for Carlo. His mother gave me this address. Is he here?
Yes, yes.
Yep, Carlo plays for the other team, as they used to say. But after that bit of ha-ha humor, Marcus doesn't seem really care if Carlo likes men, which is kind of strange considering it was the 70s and that was always either played exclusively for laughs or was shown to be degenerate. Anyways, what he wants to ask Carlo about is if he saw a man running from the apartment building, and Carlo was just too drunk to remember whether he did or not. The reason that Marcus is really getting into this mystery is that between the time that he entered the apartment until the police arrived, he's convinced he saw a painting on the wall on his way through the hallway, but after the police arrived, he can't find it. It's not there. The painting is missing. Well, Carlo has some advice for Marcus about this matter.
What are you doing messing around with this business anyway? Can't you see the guy's crazy? Maniac.
Good advice, wouldn't you say? He really should leave it to the police, but he's driven, obsessed with this missing painting. If only he could figure that out. This is another major trope, especially of Argento Giallos, where things always hinge on something visual that you've seen and you've misinterpreted, or it's now missing. Like in the Bird with the Crystal Plumage, it hinged on the hero misinterpreting what he had seen at the beginning of the film, or in Tenebrae, it was the hero, he had seen something but he can't connect it to what is going on. It's just it's a blind spot in his eye. Very common with Argento, as well as trauma coming that causes the killing stems from past events. That was always a big thing with Argento too. Later, at Marcus's apartment, while he's noodling around on the piano, composing, he hears a child's lullaby playing. How strange. And then he realizes someone's in his apartment. That was a close one. Especially like the close-up on the bead of sweat coming down his side of his face like that. Really built the tension. Oh, that was Giancarlo. Not Giancarlo. Gianna on the other end of the line. After he gets the phone there, he hears very distinctly this little whisper about they didn't get him this time, but they'll get him later. Anyway, he next morning goes and finds a recording of that lullaby he heard and takes it to Giancarlo. And after listening to it and his story, begins to pontificate his psychoanalysis.
The murderer is a schizophrenic paranoid. Anyone who kills with such frenzy surely does it in a state of temporary madness.
Sounds plausible. Oh, this does strike up a memory from Giancarlo's associate that there's an old story about a haunted house. There was a murder committed there many, many years ago. Child's Lullaby was instrumental in it or something. And he recommends a book to him. So Marcus goes and he finds it at the library, and he finds this article in it, or this chapter, The House of the Screaming Child. Now, someone had followed him this whole time and saw what he was looking at. Well, in another funny bit, Marcus is calling Gianna to look up the address for the author, while the phone he's using is at a coffee house, which just happens to be by the espresso machine, so he's constantly getting hit with steam.
Steam gun? What the hell? What the hell you want to do that for, putting the bloody machine next to here?
Ha ha. Anyways, while that's going on, the killer already knows where the author is. And we cut to her house, where after wishing a visitor, I think it's her housekeeper, goodbye for the day, she finds a strange thing in her living room. Why, a doll being hung? That's so odd. Also, someone let all her magpies out, and they're flying around the room. Or, well, whatever those birds are. I assume they're magpies. And then the lights go out. Ow! That had to hurt. Oh, that music that was playing there. The soundtrack was done by Goblin, a prog rock group from Italy. That I believe this was their first soundtrack for Dario Argento, and he began using them quite extensively. Even had them do a new score for Dawn of the Dead. He had helped finance George Romero's film in exchange for the foreign rights. And so for the foreign version, he had Goblin do a new score. And even after Claudio Simonetti left Goblin, he still used him to do his scores. Unlike Opera and Dracula 3D. Anyways, we are now coming up to another set piece that might have inspired a similar mode of murder in an 80s slasher film, as the killer fills the bathtub with scalding water. But I think you might agree, if you've seen the Halloween franchise, that that does resemble the death of Pamela Sloop's nurse character in that film, where Michael Myers pushes her face into a scalding whirlpool of water in that film. Although the makeup there was even more graphic. And anyway, after the killer leaves, who shows up but Marcus? Finds the body and skedaddles. He tells Giancarlo about it. And Giancarlo says, well, he'll go look into that. And Marcus will look into finding that house. He's discovered a picture of it, and so he's going to go look for the house. And Giancarlo notices that there's a strange thing at the murder site. The position of the body when it was found seems to have her having touched the floor-length mirror, and he gets an idea. He turned on the hot water taps, filled the room with steam, and saw her writing on the bottom of that mirror. I don't know what it said. I assume it's an Italian, but he seems to immediately know who the killer is. So, does he go to the police? No. He goes home, where he waits to hear back from Marcus to tell him this bit of news. Anyways, Marcus finally tracks down the house and the real estate person who has control of it, and he goes to get the keys and is accompanied by the guy's creepy daughter, who tends to stick pins in little lizards. Anyways, he goes in the house and makes a discovery. Wow. Interesting. So there was really a murder that was committed there. It was. Now, the story had always been the father died of an accident. We're getting closer. Meanwhile, Giancarlo's been trying to get a hold of Marcus. And then he realizes someone's in his house. And we get another extremely important bit of visual that may have inspired James Wan and the Saw franchise. Yep, a creepy doll. Fortunately, this distraction allows the killer to strike. Argento really went artistic there. The thing with the glove coming into frame and then the following the knife going up and down. That's why he's a master. Well, back at his apartment, Marcus realizes he's made a slight mistake. In looking over the picture of the house, there's a missing window. The picture has a window, the house did not. It must have been covered over. So he goes back to the house, climbs up the wall where the window should be, hammers out the piece. Yes, there is a room there. So he goes back down, breaks into the house, goes up and uncovers the room, and it's rather grisly contents. Ah! There's a decomposed body in there. Must have been in there for decades. Well, unfortunately, before he can do anything, he is struck from behind, and when he wakes up, oh, there's Gianna. He's outside on the grass. The house itself is an inferno. The killer had knocked him out, set fire to the room, and left him there. Luckily, Gianna had been following him because he'd been cutting her out, and she wants to get the story. And she kind of likes him. Anyways, they go back to the real estate agent, and they call the police and report this. And then Marcus makes an interesting discovery in the real estate office's daughter's room.
You think it was a ghost?
It's the exact same picture. How could she have drawn it? She's much too young. Well, after questioning her, it turns out that at her school, she had gotten punished one day because she's unruly and had been sent to clean up some of the artistic archives in the back rooms where they store everything, and that's where she saw the picture, and so she drew a version of it. So Marcus and Gianna head over to the school, break in, and they find the class section they need, and they start looking through things when Gianna hears something and decides to go investigating, which, as we know, in a horror film, is...
and stupid.
Exactly. Marcus finds the picture, which is signed, but we don't see the signature. And then realizes Gianna hasn't come back yet. So he goes to look for her.
Mark. Mark, help me.
Oh no, she's been stabbed. Oh, this is bad. Marcus makes her as comfortable as he can and then goes to confront the killer. And he tells him to come out because he already knows who it is. And we get our big reveal.
I know who you are. I read the name. Carlo.
I did not see that coming. Well, Carlo berates him for continuing, even after being told, just let it go. Leave it alone. Well, fortunately now he's got to kill him. And he likes him, but he's got to. Good thing the police arrived in time. Although he manages to get away. Oh, that was bad. Actually, it's much worse. He gets dragged by that truck and then gets slammed into some stone steps during a turn. Finally, they realize something's dragging. They stop, and then his head gets run over by another car. Wow. Oh, and Jonna's going to be okay. She gets out of surgery, and everything's a-okay. And as for the case,
This just about solves the mystery.
What?
does? I don't think so.
No, it's impossible. He was with me when Helga was killed.
Exactly. So, there's only one thing left to do. Return to the scene of the crime and figure out that missing painting. And he does, only to realize it wasn't a missing painting.
A mirror.
He saw a mirror. And what did he see in that mirror on the night of the crime?
There never was a painting there at all. What I saw was a reflection in a mirror.
Oh, Carlo's mother. And guess what? She followed him into the apartment.
Damn you! I hate you! Carlo had nothing to do with any of this, and you killed him.
Yep, he was just trying to protect her. And so, we have to have the explanation, right? Well, it seems that she had been in an asylum and been released, but somewhere down the line she was starting to act off again. And so her husband, Carlo's father, decided that she needed to go back for more treatment. This was at Christmas. And so she killed him in front of Carlo. Quite the image. Well, with that out of the way, Carlo's mother just happened to bring her meat cleaver with her, and so she tries to attack Marcus, and this leads to a chase out of the apartment where she runs into a bit of bad luck. She's stuck. Okay, then. He just has to disarm her and then call the police.
Shocked.
You and me both, Louie. That was brutal. It doesn't strangle her, though. Something a little more gruesome. Yeah, beheaded. Took her head right off. Ugh. And then we're left with this haunting image. What a flick. Now, I don't know if this is Argento's best film. I don't know if it's the best Giallo. That's kind of a subjective thing, but it's really, really good. I mean, if you're wanting to get into Giallos, this is the one to start with, and then you can get into some of the others, like the aforementioned Blood and Black Lace, Twitch of the Death Nerve, Knife in the Dark by Lamberto Bava, Mario's son. There's also Black Belly of the Tarantula. Oh, Fulci had made several. Never Torture a Duckling. And the New York Ripper, which, caution on that one, because that one's really, really, really gory. Although the killer does talk like Donald Duck, so it's a little weird. Anyways, I love Argento's direction in this. He has such an eye for composition. I mean, there's some great shots of, like, architecture and his placement, in which he makes Hemming seem very small and insignificant amongst a lot of things. I'm also amused by the kind of reverse gender aspect between the hero and the heroine, in that David Hemmings dresses very fashionably, a little flamboyant, and Nicorette dresses rather conservative in like a suit. She comes off as a little more masculine than he does, as evidenced by their arm wrestling bit that they do. And it's an interesting juxtaposition that you don't often see in especially horror films, which makes it even funnier when his reaction to seeing Carlo's boyfriend and his rather overly aggressive attempts at being masculine. It's an amusing bit to go with the film. Really good mystery, although you're not given a lot of suspects, but then Giallos rarely ever give you suspects. They're more concerned about the murder set pieces, and this has some great ones. That one with the doll is probably the best one, just for the visual flair that he adds to it, and the POV of the camera, which is almost the killer's POV. Although I think when that whole thing with the knife, it's a little sideways. So, but still, that is probably the high mark of this film. Really excellent, well acted, well dubbed, because Italian films were usually filmed without sound. Everybody spoke their native language, and then Foley artists would add all the sound effects, and then there would be dubbing to supply the voices. And so, as in this one, Hemmings got to supply his own voice, just like Clint Eastwood would do in his spaghetti westerns. And then you had others that would take over for the Italian actors. But yeah, really, really good film. I really enjoy this one. It is so stylish, as most of Argento's are, and is probably the peak of his film career. I know a lot of his later films, like the titled Giallo and his Dracula 3D, very weak films. Even his third of his Mother's trilogy really suffers in comparison to the first two. Not helped by the fact that it was over 20 years before he actually got to do it, because Inferno was such a box office disappointment. He just could not get the backing for that and had to go back to Giallos, which really are his forte, much like Bava's. Well, there's not much really more to say about this one. But please hit like, share, and subscribe, and stay after the credits for my favorite scene.
That was an absolute elbow off the table. That is a total and absolute cheat.